For many, running is more than a sport. It's a sanctuary, a space where life's challenges are met one stride at a time. For Lalida Maokhamphiou, that couldn't be more true. What began as a way to cope with life's challenges quickly transformed into a lifelong passion. The roads that were once an escape soon became a second home. Lalida rose in the sport, becoming a standout high school track star and an accomplished NCAA Division I runner. But one of her most personal triumphs came at the 2025 Boston Marathon, where she broke the 3-hour barrier for the first time. Along the way, she's discovered that every mile holds a life lesson, and now, as a high school running coach, she is dedicated to passing that wisdom on to the next generation.
All right, hey guys, welcome to another episode of C4 Podcast. My name is Coach Yandetka. I'm here with my co-host, John Messina. C4 standing for Southeast Asian Athlete Achievement Through Adversity. If you guys haven't already, please follow us on Instagram or Facebook, Lower American Sports. Check out our website, LowerAmericanSportsHallOfFame.com. If you know of anyone who would make a great guest, please message us because we'd love to hear, this is pretty much, it's just storytelling, right? We're hearing, how people overcome adversity and the struggles that they're going through, and then like to be triumphant at the end. Those stories to me and John are inspirational. So we're looking for, to hear more. We want to hear more. So if you know of anybody that would make a great guest, please message us on Messenger. John?
Yeah, so we're excited to have a great guest today, Lalida Maokhamphiou. And thank you to the individual who referred us to her. I believe that was your cousin or something, right, Lalida?
Yeah, that's my cousin.
Yeah. So shout out to her because, man, we did a post on the Hall of Fame page on Lalida's incredible accomplishment of breaking that 3-hour mark at the Boston Marathon.
Oh, thank you.
We started getting messages, hey, you got to have her on the show. So we reached out to you and here we are. So thank you to your cousin for letting us know, because the community is really excited to hear. And this is our second episode on a runner. We had Boomer Savant back, I think, about 2 years ago. So
okay, well, I'm honored to be on here, and I'm glad to be the second runner.
Well, you're the first female, right?
Oh, okay, I'm the first female. Yay.
First female runner. Female runner. But yes, so with that, Ko's going to kick off the questions.
Yeah.
Wait, so tell us, Lita, what do you know of your family origins in Laos and like the journey coming over to the States?
Yeah. So my father, he was born and raised in Pak Se. He then went to Udon, which is like a community college in Vientiane, but that was when the communist Pathet Lao seized power in 1975. So he fled to Thailand with all his belongings, like only like in a bag, a trash bag basically, and he crossed the Mekong River to Thailand. And that's where he was able to get to a border police, and he was placed in a refugee camp in Nong Khoi. And he was there for 3 years until he received sponsorship from a church in Arkansas. And then that was in 1980. And he then was able to get his GED there, and then went on to get his bachelor's in electrical engineering at the University of Arkansas in 1987. And then he, once graduating, reunited with his family in Sacramento in 1988. And that's where he met my mom. Okay. And then, yeah.
Wow.
And my mom, she's born and raised in Vientiane. She graduated in Vientiane with a bachelor's in like electro engineering, which is like kind of a mix of electrical and mechanical engineering. But she received a student visa to go to San Jose State in 1989. That's where she changed her major to business. And then that's when she came here, that's when she met my father through the Lao community here.
Okay.
Wow, that's an engineering. Yeah. That's my background.
My
father was a mechanical engineer. My brother's a mechanical. Mm-hmm. I was supposed to be an engineer. Like it was set for me to be, but I wanted to pursue exercise physiology, and I was a bodybuilder, so I made the switch. But yeah, no, it's great. My son just told me he's gonna study aeronautics engineer. I don't know, like aerospace engineer.
Yeah,
So,
that's so difficult.
yeah.
Yeah.
But it
That's
runs the family.
well, it's funny because my wife was born in Vientiane and she was in the non-Kai camp probably the same time as your dad.
Yeah.
Really little child though at the time, but
Oh, okay.
she's a civil engineer.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, the
and
camp was what, 75, like late, like
I
November-ish?
I don't
Yeah.
know when it opened, but yeah, a lot of
Yeah.
people were there in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
75 was when we left. So we were at, a camp for a little bit. So
Mm-hmm.
across from, but we were in Savannakhet, so it was somewhere like Mukdahan. Um,
Yeah.
so Nong Khai is like what, of like across from Vientiane, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
he probably remembers the fire. My wife tells me a story when she's little. There, like half the camp burnt down. Ask him about it.
I should.
I don't know what year it was.
Yeah.
Sometime around 80ish or something like that.
Yeah,
Well,
it's funny. My dad's like a quiet man, so I only know bits and stories of this from like my uncles or aunts that give it to me.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, exciting. Well, so tell us about you. What was your upbringing like?
Yeah. So after my parents met, my dad, he moved here to the Bay Area, because he's an engineer. He got a job at ESS. And then my mom's a social worker at the Child Support Services here. So growing up, it was both my parents were very hardworking. My brother is nonverbal with autism, so we did have some struggles with managing that, but luckily we have a really good support system with our family. So my grandma ended up living with us for a few years, and then my uncle, my mother's brother, stayed with us for a few years, and then my cousin to help like with taking care of my brother. So I think that's how I got into running, because running became like an outlet for me with all the stressors of my life. And it really allowed me to, I don't know, take some of that stress out by like moving it towards like a positive like like outlook for myself.
What got you attracted to running? What was that first initial, okay, I want to run out of that?
Yeah, my dad, he runs every day, so I was like, maybe I'll run with him. And then I have a friend in school who was like, you should join the cross country team. Like I didn't even know what cross country was at all. And this is my sophomore year of high school. And in PE, we do like these like runs for like the mile program, like so that you just get credit. And I would always do extra laps to get extra credit. And they're like, you should really think about doing cross country. I was like, what is that? So then my sophomore year, I joined, and I was like, already like really good at like enduring like a long distance. So I feel like that was my calling. Yeah.
Yeah. So then it sounds like you had a great high school running career. Tell us
Yeah.
about kind of that whole recruiting process with college and deciding to run in college and run it in San Jose State
Yeah.
and what you did there.
Yeah. So, yeah, I got a lot of like interest my junior and senior year from a lot of colleges around the area. And even like, I think I also got offers from like Utah, Arizona, some Florida schools, all over the country, really. But I'm very family oriented, so I didn't want to leave my family. Like, so I ended up going to my mom's alma mater, which is San Jose State. Yeah,
Okay.
and staying close here.
So what were some of your top accomplishments there at San Jose State?
Yeah, I think my specialty was definitely the steeplechase. Also, like the 1500 too. I was more of a mid-distance runner in high school and college, so I liked the mile. That was my favorite in high school. And then in college, like 1500 and 3K were like the distances I preferred. So coming into the marathon, I actually put off that for a while because it just seemed like so long. Like we would do long runs in college, like 16-mile long runs, and I thought that was tough. And I couldn't imagine doing 10 more. And here I am.
So tell us about that. Tell us about your first marathon and what your experience for that first time. Because yeah, you're doing 3K and now you're doing 26.2 miles. That's a big.
Yeah, I think that really started with the pandemic. So with the gyms being closed, running was really my only vice of like sanity. And I was I was having a lot of friends start like doing marathons too, and I'm like, maybe I should try. So then so I did a good training block and did my first marathon at CIM, which is in Sacramento here. And I did that December 2022. That was my first. And I didn't really have any expectations going into it. I just wanted to finish really. And then I ended up Boston qualifying on that one. So then I was like, maybe I have a knack for marathon running. So then I just continued just like chipping away at the time. And then, yeah, eventually was able to break 3 hour barrier.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
funny. The CIM. So Boomer ran in that, who we had
Yes.
on,
Mhm.
and I think it was in 2022. My brother did his first marathon at that CIM when you were there as well. So
Wow.
it's kind of crazy how that all.
All these like crazy coincidences.
Yeah, for sure,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. And I think I
So,
chose
man,
Sacramento specifically because a lot of my family lives in Sacramento. So I had a lot of support for that too. And my uncle, my brother, my dad's brother, he's really into marathon running too. So I think that also inspired me. He does CIM every year.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then so my brother said about 20 miles in, he hit this wall, and we talked to Boomer about it. When you did that
Yeah.
first marathon, what was that like when you kind of got to that point where you're just,
Yeah, it's funny. It's like you've never really gotten to that much fatigue in your life until you get to the marathon. And that 20-mile barrier, that last 10K, you have to really dig deep and like kind of like push past a certain threshold that you never thought you could reach. And that's the beauty of the marathon is I feel like no matter what time it is or like how like what distance and like what your mileage program is, everyone has to go through these barriers to finish the marathon. And the marathon, I think, is like a mental fortitude that you need in order to finish that last 10K. It's almost a euphoric feeling, like you're in so much pain, but you really feel like you you need to accomplish this barrier in order to prove to yourself that you can do hard things. And yeah, I think that's like something that transcends like past the marathon and like everything you do.
tell us a little bit about the training regimen.
Yeah.
How you prepared? Do you eat a certain way? Do you take supplements?
Yeah.
Tell us about the whole process.
Yeah. So this past Boston will be my fourth marathon. So I've kind of gotten sort of a regimen down now. I do a 16-week marathon training block where I will gradually increase my mileage up to about 55 to 60 miles per week. Each week consists of a long run, a tempo run, and an interval workout run, where I'm pushing like a marathon pace for the tempo. And then also intervals, I'm pushing like my tempo pace and threshold pace so that I can withstand like faster pace for the marathon. And then long runs, that ends up being like 16 to 22 miles, but that I take much easier. And that's where I train like my intake of gels and like kind of training the stomach to withstand like eating while running, basically. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and which is quite difficult because that's why a lot of people have some GI issues during the marathon because you do need to intake a lot of carbs, electrolytes, sodium, but while doing extraneous exercise, it's like fighting against your body basically, which is hard. And then during my training process, like diet wise, I try to intake at least 100 grams of protein a day in order to rebuild like muscle and break down. And then also I am like on a high carb diet to help with the glycogen stores and heavily carbo load the week of the marathon.
Yeah.
And then in terms of supplements, I just take really protein. Protein's like the number one thing for me, and then diet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
Nice.
So the Boston, you can't just show up. When did you qualify for that?
Yeah, I've qualified for that since my first one. I
Oh,
lucked
wow.
out and I qualified at that CIM in 2022.
Is
And
that based on the time?
yes.
Okay.
So I got 3:22 that my first marathon, and you need under 3:30 in order to qualify. So then I did Boston that in 2024, and then I did Berlin fall of 2024, and then now I've done Boston again. So my goal is actually hopefully to go sub 3 at all the major marathons.
Okay. You're going to run the Chicago Marathon?
Yeah, I was gonna ask about Chicago.
Yeah, I am signed up for October.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll stand on the side co, right, and cheer. We ain't running it with her.
It won't be too cold in October. It'll be fine.
Yeah, I hope it's not too windy.
Yeah,
It is the Windy City.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, like, John, did you hear about that dust storm we had? Like on
yeah. I
Crazy.
I saw that. It wasn't too bad. So
I mean,
Well-
in fact, they came up on my phone alert, like stay out of go indoors and like dust. I was like, I've never heard of such a thing, So it's crazy.
Wow.
yeah.
That's
So-
crazy.
So you get to Boston, right? And
Mhm.
there's it 3:22 to 3 hours. Sounds like it's 20 minutes. It's really not that big of a deal. But from what I understand, breaking that 3 hour barrier is like this psychological kind of like wall for a lot of people. I mean, how did you do it, and what did it feel like when you realized you did it?
Yeah. I don't know what it is about the 3-hour barrier. It is such a roadblock. Like I did Berlin 2024 and I had 3:01, and like trying to break 3 hours mentally, because you have to dip also under a sub 7 pace. So on the body for that many miles is a lot. And you have these factors like cramping or like muscle fatigue that you're dealing with, and pushing pace for that long. You just don't know how your muscles are going to react to it. So that's why I feel like although 20 minutes doesn't seem like in the grand scheme of thing like that much, but because you're pushing the barrier like in little paces, like because it's 26 miles, like even just minute changes in pace dramatically affect the marathon. Like I think the 3:22 is 7:20 pace, and then sub 3 is like 6:47. So it's not like a huge dramatic pace change, but adding it up mile per mile per mile, it just like wears on your body. And there's no amount of training I feel like can really test you until you can do the marathon, because you never run 26 miles before the marathon. Like only you're supposed to go up to 22. So then the day of, you just hope and pray like that you're lucky and your muscles like can just withstand it. And then yeah, it's I think it really is just like dipping under the 7-minute mark, and then withstanding like the hills and like all the marathon, like and weaving and all sorts of factors that are out of your control. So I think psychologically that's the hardest part, is like looking at your watch, you're staying under the 7-minute mark. It's just really fatiguing, and sometimes you do dip under and then you're worried like, oh, did I do like is this pace that I just missed going to affect my entire marathon? So then you do calculations like the whole time you're running, like what pace do I need in order to keep on pace? And sometimes with the hills you just don't know how fast you're going to run them, so then you have to calculate. For example, Boston has like a couple of rolling hills, so then you have to calculate, oh, if you go over 7 minutes, then you have to do like that differential between your pace to see if you've made up the time. So that's for me what I had to do for Boston. I actually went out and did my half marathon PR for Boston to make up for the hills, so that I can have like some leeway or grace like for the amount of time I would deduct from the hills. So it's a lot of calculations, I feel like, to do a sub 3. And sometimes you're so tired and you just kind of give up and like, I guess I'll try getting close and then we'll see. And so for my Boston, I looked at my watch and I was quite close. My time officially is 2:59:44. So
Wow.
that last mile, I was beelining. I could see the finish. I could see the time. I knew I was close. I just gave it my all because I was calculating like, oh, like I ran the hills a little too slow. So now I have to make it up in this last mile. So then I just floored it when I was down Boylston, which is like the straightaway to the end. And I knew I was close, but official time I couldn't tell because I just see my watch time. So I got to my phone and I just had so many messages from my family and friends saying, congratulations, you did it. Like, I'm so proud of you. Like, and I just started bawling. Just the fact that like I had all this support and people were watching me down to the wire. Like, they were like, they believed in me and they just wanted me to, because everyone knew my goal and they're like, they just wanted this so badly for me too. And it just felt so overcome. I was so overcome with emotions. I was crying. And I just like, I knew it was possible, but doing it, it was so euphoric. It's like they call it a runner's high, where like you just get overwhelmed with this euphoric and like this uplifting feeling. And I had it for like a week after. I just was on a high of like this achievement that I had for myself. It was honestly the best feeling that I've had ever, like it running any, I think, race.
So what's your next goal? Is it you have a goal of like time, or is it like a certain marathon that you want to do, or what is
Yeah.
your ultimate goal before, let's say, you retire?
Yeah. So my big overall goal is to get sub 3 at all the major marathons. And then my upcoming goal for Chicago, I'd love to go 2:55 because it's a flat course, rather than Boston was a hilly course. So I feel like with the flatter course, I could take advantage and try to run faster with that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty exciting.
Mhm.
So we found something else out about you from our kind of the text the other day. So now you're not just running on your own here for kind of recreation and with your USA track and field affiliated club, right? You're
Yeah.
giving back to the sport and you're teaching the next generation, right?
Yes. Yeah. I'm a cross country and distance track and field coach for my alma mater, high school.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
What does it mean to you to kind of teach that next generation of kids?
It's so gratifying. And I feel like I've been in their shoes and I know exactly what they're feeling, and I'm helping them navigate and also motivate them with the experience that I have, which is so valuable in your development in your running career because there's so many setbacks if you don't have the right knowledge, like injuries or like proper diet training. So I just love giving back. It doesn't really feel like a job for me. It just feels like I get to hang out and like tell people about running, and it's just like I get paid to do this. This is great.
I mean, well, so what advice are you like going to be giving them, right? The ones that are really dreaming big, right? The ones that, yeah,
Yeah.
I'll do marathon. What advice would you give them?
Yeah, I always tell them like you have this overall big picture goal, and every day like you want to make some strides to it, even if it's just small things that you do, because it adds up in the end. So even like 5 minutes of core or like stretching out, it does wonders and it will have long-term effect. You can't just think, oh, like, oh, I can skip the next day, but then you keep making these excuses for yourself and they just, then you start like pushing off things, and then you realize like, oh, if I had done it in the beginning, then I would be here, and you don't want to have any regrets. So I always tell them like try to like do little small goals every day because they add up, even though I know they're very busy, but I always tell them like it's the little details that really define your career.
Yeah, and as a coach, I mean, you were also a former D1 athlete.
Mhm.
So what do you tell those, aspiring Division I college athletes that you coach?
Yeah. So I do have a few athletes that are going D1, which I'm very proud of them. Um, and I always tell them this is just the start of your career, you know? You have your whole career to like this is just the tip of the iceberg to where you can be in your running career, and just listen to the people that are giving you advice. It's honestly will make all the difference in the things that you do, not only in your running, but in your overall life too. And with the big goals in mind, I think all my athletes, they can achieve all their goals that they set. And as long as they believe, they can do anything.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah, belief is a big component.
Yeah, because
Uh,
running is very mental. So you can do anything if you're strong enough and you have the will. And like, if you can't, if you never give up, it will be hard for you not to like win. It's like, that's the lovely thing about running is you will, most of the work that you put in will transfer and translate to the results you receive.
and having a great support system, like you were talking about,
Yeah,
it's priceless. So,
priceless. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, exciting. Well, Lalida, we appreciate you coming on.
Yes.
We're excited to follow your career as you do these
Thank you.
marathons. Yeah, we'll post updates on the Hall of Fame page for the
Oh,
community. They
thanks.
love seeing that one to kind of follow you and get everybody behind you as you pursue this next wave of goals.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Joe?
no, that was great. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. And hopefully, somebody can watch this and be inspired in anything,
Yeah.
or it's whatever dreams they got, just to be inspired. And I'm like, when I first, when I first started, bodybuilding, there weren't many, so it was hard to find that, inspiration,
Yeah.
it was like nobody, I'm not Arnold Schwarzenegger, but the guy's 6'5" and he's
Yeah.
250 pounds and you're 4 foot something. So
Mhm.
yeah, now, yeah, it's just like, it's great to see this new wave of Lao American athletes coming up,
Yeah.
that's because we were always like, the Asian culture is always about, study, study, study. They wanted me, my parents wanted me engineer, engineer, engineer.
Yeah. Yes.
And I think I needed that outlet, right? So when I first started working out, I was like, this is an outlet. And I'm like,
Mhm.
my body responded, and I was like,
Mhm.
I actually enjoy this, So,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, you can do both.
you
You
know,
can like feed your physical and your mental and your career too.
yeah. At
Yeah.
that time, though, yeah, just like, when your parents just came over from the States and they're just trying to survive,
Yes.
like, there's, what are you dreaming about? There's no dreams. We need to make it through the day.
Yeah.
We're out here like dreaming about this and that. It's like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
so,
The
but you
new
gotta
day.
start with a dream, right? You gotta dream.
Yes.
So,
Yeah. Always important to dream big.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, with that, we'll wrap it up. We appreciate it, everybody. Please like,
Thanks for
follow, and share. Yeah. Thanks so much
Yeah.
for coming on, Lalida. The C4 podcast is brought to you by the Lao American Sports Hall of Fame. Visit us on the web at laoamericansports.com, celebrating the first, inspiring the next.